And we continue to follow financial news today following an update from Fed Chair Jerome Powell. He spoke with reporters and delivered an update a little bit earlier today, just about an hour and a half ago, to break down what it all means for you and for your investments and for your wallet. We turn now to Stephen Kates, who is a financial analyst at Bankrate. Stephen, it has been a busy day. Thank you for making the time to join us. For
My pleasure.
folks who maybe are not super close watchers of financial news, let's start with this. Break down what people should take away from Jay Powell's announcement this afternoon.
I think the biggest thing that people can walk away from is that nothing has really changed from yesterday to today. Any decisions financially that you were planning to make, you shouldn't necessarily change your plans. Rates have stayed the same. The federal funds rate is what the Federal Reserve controls. And that does impact certain things like high yield savings accounts, CDs, variable borrowing rates like credit card rates. But that remained the same as it was in January. And it's likely to stay the same for the foreseeable future because unfortunately, inflation seems to be rearing its ugly head.
Another question, Stephen, going into this update this afternoon was what would be the Fed's perspective on the economic impact of this ongoing, some call it a conflict, others call it a war in the Middle East. What's the Fed's perspective on that?
So they did acknowledge that in the statement that they provided, and it certainly was addressed in the press conference that Jerome Powell gave. But for the most part, while it is an acute shock and certainly one that everybody is seeing today, if you go to the pump, it's not something that is expected to last forever. Unlike the tariffs last year, which had an impact that trickled in slowly over time and slowly built upon itself, we see the impact of this immediately. We saw gas prices rise almost overnight. And when things are resolved, however that may happen, whenever that may happen, we won't see necessarily an immediate resumption back to where we were prior to this conflict, war, whatever you call it. But we will see one that will accelerate quickly downwards as things return to normalcy.
The buzzword in politics, Republican, Democrat, just about anybody who's running for any kind of office or in any kind of office this year has been affordability. And a part of that component of the affordability conversation are things like inflation, or things like the Fed funds rate. For somebody who's watching all of this and basically just wants things to be a little more affordable when they go to get groceries or get gas or any kind of household goods, what should they take away from where the Fed's perspective is right now?
Well, I say my heart goes out to you because there are a lot of people that are feeling like their budget is shrinking, that they are finding it harder to make their dollars stretch. And that is a reality. The position that people are in their life may very well impact what they are feeling and the type of inflation they're experiencing. If you're trying to buy a home, then buying power is better than it was last year, but it's still nowhere near where it used to be. Mortgage rates are high, prices are high, and we're seeing that in very low housing activity. If you're somebody trying to buy a car prices are high, and borrowing rates for auto loans on new or used cars, they are higher and actually have risen in the last month. So in some cases, it may feel like we're going backwards, and that's because in some cases, compared to even a month ago, we are. What I would tell people is that for the most part, wages, even if it doesn't feel like it, they are on real terms higher than inflation. So the best way that we're going to get out of this is to try to get inflation down, but also be patient with the fact that wages on average are rising faster than inflation and will get us out of this over time.
How does this, Stephen, all interweave with the job market now, too? It's been a year where there have been a lot of headlines about layoffs and job reductions. How does this all come together and impact the economic situation, not just for individuals, but for the country's economic health as a whole?
Well, right now, the labor market is in a bit of an uneasy equilibrium because layoffs are low, but so is hiring. And so if you have a job and you're secure in that job, you're actually in pretty good shape. But if you have lost your job or you are worried about losing your job, then you may be extremely anxious because finding a job is very hard and people are ending up in unemployment for a lot longer than they used to be. So that is the problem that we're dealing with today. It's not that unemployment is rising quickly. Layoffs are actually below average compared to where they were prior to the pandemic. Not a lot of people believe me on that, but that is 100% true. But it is the hiring environment that is so challenged. And in certain categories, basically almost anything that isn't healthcare or healthcare adjacent, we're not seeing a lot of job growth. In some cases, even negative job growth. And that's wearing on people. White collar workers, they are the ones actually seeing a lot of this the most. And that's not a position that most people are used to. And so it is hitting them hard.
Stephen, let's talk about the future for a minute here. I know your time is short, so we're going to let you go in a moment, but I would be mistaken if I didn't ask you about this. Chairman Powell's term leading the Fed is coming to an end shortly. I believe in May is when his time as chair
Correct.
is coming up. There's been a lot of conversation, a lot of political discourse about his relationship with President Trump. At times, those two have seemed to be at odds. And then there's going to be this process of putting somebody new in to replace him as chair. What comes next here in that process, and how does all of that change, impact or not, the markets?
Well, you won't hear any answer from Jerome Powell about what his future plans are, or really what he personally thinks about any of this. He's been very tight-lipped about it. One of the things that is unknown and would be impactful if we could get any information about it is what he plans to do. Although he has to step down as chairman, he could stay on as a governor for another 2 years. That would be pretty unusual for him to do that. No prior chairs have done that, but he could do it. And he hasn't given any indication of what he'll do in that regard. But Kevin Warsh is the presumptive replacement. He's been nominated, but at the moment, the confirmation hearing is being held up somewhat by the legal goings on for Lisa Cook and other implications with the Federal Reserve. Tom Tillis is seeming to hold those up. We don't know how long that's going to go. And if Powell's term ends and there is no replacement, then he would potentially stay on until there is.
Stephen Kates, never a dull day in the world of financial news, and certainly not in 2026. Stephen Kates with Bankrate. Stephen, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Have a good day.